Great, thank you so much. One thing I didn't ask you to do is give us who are you and how do you know this stuff?
That's classified, Joe.
I'm sure it is.
I've done a lot of things. The last 5 years I was splitting time between doing sort of a hybrid of product and project management for Interactive and teaching e-business courses at Columbia College, Chicago. I also have a side career in journalism, so I do a lot of new media coverage as well as for the comic book industry for places like Publishers Weekly.
Okay, so and what brings you out here to San Francisco?
Oh, I just moved out here. I'm not teaching anymore, and I decided, well, if I'm going to do something interesting in technology, yeah, I'm thinking the Bay's more interesting than Chicago. It's true.
Excellent. So I'm going to just take a couple minutes and open it up for questions. So, and then from there we'll move on to Andre and then Dimachi. One of the questions, did you have a question right now? Go for it.
What do you see about options like Zazzle for a non-inventory based merch store?
Basically,
did everyone hear the question real quick? The question was, how do you feel about Zazzle as a non-inventory based merch store?
Basically, pick one that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
A lot of people are really unhappy with Cafe Press because their initial quality wasn't so good. I'm under the impression that got fixed a little bit, but everybody has a different pricing structure, and everybody has a slightly different set of things that you can personalize. Most of it's really based on you upload your graphic and they emboss it on a glass or a t-shirt or some piece of merchandise. So find someone you're comfortable partnering with and you're comfortable with the pricing structure and pick your own voice.
The other ones, because the reason I mentioned Zazzle is like, although it's sold a lot and a lot of music guys, they move a lot of units. The thing is, because you can upload your design, you don't have to pay. They just pay you a percentage back.
Well, no, there's a lot of companies that work just exactly like that. That's the beauty of affiliates. You put your IP out, they send you a check. Nice and streamlined. And that way you don't have to worry about, where am I putting these 4,000 shirts in my studio apartment? Because it's really annoying when you have to do that.
Have you ever done it?
No, I sell books, they fit in the corner, they're small.
Perfect. Go ahead.
I have an art-based puzzle game. How do I figure out what kind of merchandise my players might want to buy?
Well, what's the theme of the game?
It's a matching game, tiles, art, different designs, sayings.
Any particular genre with the art? Was it
sort of more abstract modern.
That could be
Probably not so like t-shirts, but are they?
They might buy t-shirts for designs. You might be able to affiliate it around it with some art content, art books, referrals with other artists, and sort of work a community with them. Awesome.
Okay, cultivate.
Yeah.
Their tastes.
Cultivate their tastes. And the beautiful thing about the modern world is you have comment sections. You can ask questions and get a little feedback. One of the things you have to do with this is experiment. First thing might not work, the second might.
One of the things that you had on the side or your slides was the 1%, that essentially, you're expecting about 1% of the people that are viewing your content, your free content, to be paying for merchandise itself.
Yeah.
Is that generally, first of all, do you think that's enough to get by? And
well, you need to have a large audience, or you're not going to be able to sell very much. This thing is so consistent. I'm going to tell a KickStarter story a little out of turn. There was just for an example of how consistent this is. There was a KickStarter webcomic that closed last week with $1.25 million worth of funding.
Right.
I did an interview with the fellow for Publishers Weekly. He had 15,000 people that contributed to this KickStarter campaign. No, this is actually where we're just Double Fine's at 2.2 million with 15 people.
And it's still going.
15,000.
15,000 people for the one that I'm talking about.
Right.
His audience, if you count the people who show up every 1 to 2 months as opposed to the daily readers, is about 1.6 million. So 1%, 15 to 1.6, but it was only up for a month. So he might have lost out on a few that come every 2 months. That's right around 1%. It's just shocking how that number bears out across a number of different subjects.
Cool. Well, there we go. Okay, so I mean, and that was the numbers that he found, that it was pretty much that 1%.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of research. I'm actually 2 chapters away from the 3rd edition of a textbook called The Business Side of Digital Comics. Everybody that does this says about 1%.
Okay.
Marvel Comics, when they were putting free comics online, would see a 1% bump in print sales. People selling T-shirts would sell to 1% of the audience, just right across the board.
Okay. We've got one more question, then we'll move on to Andre, and then we'll open it up for all 3 panels at the end. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I'm just confused with the 1% is 1% of people that visit the website.
Unique visitors, yes.
Okay. It's the whales, just like in social games, like 70% of your revenue. It's across all these platforms.
Yeah.
Your music guys the same.
Cool.
It's shockingly consistent.
Sure, go ahead.
Is there a difference between, let's say, if you just put it online and then if you have a real life presentation to an audience? Is there a difference in the response rates?
I have never seen anyone test that.
What did they do to get that large response on KickStarter?
Well, this particular property had been around for 9 years. So he had a large existing audience to throw at the property.
What property was it?
Order of the Stick.
Indeed.
It's a game?
It's a comic strip about Dungeons and Dragons.
Perfect.
With stick figures.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. We're going to go ahead and move on to Andre. And Andre, if you can start off just by introducing yourself, and then we'll turn off the lights, we'll get your presentation going, and then you can kick right into it.
What if we do it halfway, so we could, maybe the front lights just off, and shoot it out some? Is everybody okay with that?
Is
Is
that-
everybody see?
Yeah, that's
Everybody vote?
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Andre Patrick and I'm the Managing Director of the IIFF here in San Francisco, and we're here to talk about what we do to finance film and media projects. And we're ready
It's
to
going.
go with the presentation.
Sweet.
Can you speak up, please?
Yeah, can we make sure we turn up this mic?
maybe you could switch.
And just make sure to speak into the microphone. I think they're just trying to make sure you hear it in the back.
So the IIFF is a group that connects investors with usually film producers and other media project producers as well. We've had some TV shows come through, a few websites. One project I think that would be the closest to Transmedia is this a documentary and a TV show with a game that's about Guitar Hero. And I believe it was called Guitar Man or something like that. But it was a documentary that had a connected web series, a TV show, and I believe a game as well. But that's better. And so we started here in San Francisco in 2005, and we're still going today. We have operations here in San Francisco and LA, New York, Vancouver, and London. And we're about to relaunch our operations in Toronto and Seattle. And so the mission, as you can see, the official mission is to expand the scope and appeal of film and media financing in an economically sustainable manner for the benefit of all. And the vision is to create economic sustainability in film finance. Something that got cut off at the bottom of the slide.
Going here.
By enabling filmmakers and financiers to consistently benefit from their interactions. So basically connecting the investment model of Silicon Valley with media production and finance. And because typically in Hollywood, you have a closed system, it's not very easy, to be an independent producer and try to make your way in, especially with an independent project. It happens, it occasionally happens, like with, let's say, Paranormal Activity or Sunny in Philadelphia. Those are a couple of examples of a film and a TV show that kind of came out of nowhere and just made it onto some major distribution. But And so the major goals are to democratize film financing and remedy or address usually stifling inefficiencies in film financing. And we do that by connecting film and media makers to the resources that they need to produce their successful projects, by providing funding backed by industry experience and financial expertise, and by cultivating success as much as possible by instituting all of the connected resources, right, like research, the education that we provide, mostly through workshops, and networking and collaboration, right? All with the goal of connecting all of this at the nexus of film finance, and to represent and address the challenges that all these film and media makers have, that they usually have no necessarily remedy for or avenue to address just financing. Right now, there is crowdfunding, right, in terms of a new phenomenon, relatively new, but for major projects, you can only go so far with crowdfunding. And for some projects, like the game project that just made $2 million, it's a great thing. But one of the things that can happen with crowdfunding is that it can provide seed funds, right, and matching funds that investors that are interested, in putting millions of dollars into a project can latch onto and use to leverage. And so crowdfunding is great for that. And so what we do with our events is we work to create a network and develop a community within all of these, the attendees and the members and the industry professionals that come to our meetings, similar to tonight's meeting. And then from that, we connect members and professionals to workshops where they can just come to get information that they need that would empower them to take them to the next level or the next steps of their projects, or where they can actively workshop their projects to do something like create a budget or create a marketing plan. And so quite a bit of the people that come to our events and the workshops are industry people that have been fairly successful in what they do, in a certain kind of niche department, right? And they want to branch out and produce their first project. So, we work to address the deficiencies that they have, right? And it can be, with legal, it can be with marketing, distribution, sales, and everything beyond and in between. And some of our advisors consult with producers on the critical success factors, because even producers that we've had that come up from LA to pitch projects, and different people that you would think basically would know everything that you would need to know, right, to pitch or produce a project, don't really know everything that is required. And so that's why we have advisory board members that consult with producers as well, and sometimes will actively work to produce their project, which is a great thing because it enables projects to happen that might not necessarily happen otherwise. And the investors that we have independently fund the projects at the moment, but myself and a few other people have been working to create a film fund. First, the idea was to create a social media film fund to expand the outreach, basically, and connection points of these film projects. But I think that it's really going to develop into something like a transmedia fund, because I think with major projects, the big idea with transmedia and social media is to reach out more and create, of course, more engagement, right? Just as it is with a lot of major companies. and they're looking towards transmedia to just create more connection points, basically to engage people and connect them to a story at different points in different ways. And so some of the pitches that we've had and some of the films that we've funded from a relatively small budget film like Raspberry Magic, which was an independent film, and another one called Bottle Shock that had a fairly decent independent film budget that had some recognizable celebrities in it, and made it around to some film festivals and actually did make some money. We had another project called Sold that's still in development and pre-production, and that was a project about human trafficking that has some notable actors, and like David Arquette and Lucy Liu and Emma Watson, and it was a really great project because it's a social venture project as well, and so the funds and proceeds are going to a few different charities that work to rescue people that are victims of social trafficking in India. And another project that we've had is Follow the Stars, which was a project about Nazi Germany in Amsterdam, and it was produced by Sean Astin. Came up to produce that, and he was Bilbo Baggins' friend in The Lord of the Rings. And Thrive, a movie that was actually screening here the first time that I came to a meeting here and met up with co-founders of this group, was partially funded by one of the investors in our group, which I think is really great. It's if anyone hasn't seen it or knows anything about it, it's a documentary kind of like I Am or What the Bleep. And so I think it's a great project about moving into, I think, new cultural modes for the new millennium. And Miles and Me is one of the latest projects that a few of the members and investors in our group are working on. It's a story about Miles Davis, the autobiographical story about Miles Davis, and it looks like a really great project. It's starring Sam Jackson as Miles Davis. So I think it could definitely be one of the great projects that we have. And so the process usually looks like this. We have submissions and producers and anyone who basically is pushing a project, right? It could be a film, a TV show, a website, an app as well. Submit something like an executive summary or a one sheet to myself or a few of the other managers in the group, and we make selections. And we usually select projects based on certain success factors and the track records of the principals involved with the projects. And some of them are the typical types of commercial elements. And we also select projects based on a combination of the creative as well. The creative and the IP and bankable name brands and stars. And I put a little note on that. A star officially is someone who's previously been in a film grossing $50 million or more domestically. And not to be mercenary, but producers, especially in Hollywood with major production companies and sales agents, actually do have sheets, that have a dollar value, that stars usually bring to films, and so they do take that into consideration, and so another detail that's actually really interesting about that is that the economics professor that actually that actually is really pushing that information found that, and it's been proven that the Pareto principle actually applies to film and budget, the 80-20 principle. And so he's found that 80% of films do not make money, right? And so that actually relates to stars as well. He found that that is especially the case and compounded when these stars are paid what the sales agents believe them to be worth. So that's just a detail. And so we definitely select projects that ideally have track records or team members that have track records. And the selection process definitely has some subjectivity to it. And some of the most experienced producers that I've met and know, still say that they select projects that have to be made. Right? It's just that can't really be turned down, because the evidence they present, is so great that it's such a valuable project that has to be made. And so, some of the typical commercial elements are popular mainstream genres. There are about a dozen or so genres that are typical, that a lot of producers work to kind of conform to a certain extent for different reasons, like horror, there's horror, drama, comedy, sci-fi, and marquee talent or stars definitely make a big difference. Brand name recognition makes a big difference, and a prestige team, of course, talent and companies attached make a big difference as well. And usually to get funded, there really has to be, or it's encouraged that there is at least an established director, producer, or talent attached at the least. Or it could be, just an amazing story that has to be made. And that still happens as well. There are definitely independent film projects that, as we all know, that have the stars, there are people that are first outs that still make it. And so then we have our pitch meetings after we have our selections, and producers pitch their projects. And this we go through the slide deck, just like something through this. Sometimes we'll have a quick screening of a trailer or dailies or whatever the situation is. And then the investors will follow up individually and take on the financing, usually individually or teamed up with some of the other investors or members, some of which are VCs and tech investors they're used to the typical process of creating a deal memo and going through the entire funding process. And so that's most of what our project looks like. And I've been working for maybe the last year and a half to develop what we do and develop our business model so that we can include some of these other digital platforms with what we do, because we originally started out with film as a major focus in 2005, and that's why I'm here, to connect what we do to our finance group and to create opportunities.
Great. I think my microphone is going to get some feedback. No? All right. All right. Can we just get the audio down just a touch on my microphone if that's possible? I'm loud, I'm sorry. Great, and can we just get the light as well?